What's up, Wise Flyers? David here. Today we're talking about the 5 best Citi Thank You transfer partners. So you could earn Citi Thank You points that could transfer over to partners with the Citi Premier card, Citi Prestige card. They transfer over to a bunch of different transfer partners at a 1-to-1 ratio for most of them, and then it's completely free. So rather than booking through the portal itself, you could get a lot more value by transferring it to partners, which I'll show you exactly how to get the most value out of them in this video. Besides the Citi Prestige and Citi Premier card,
And recently, the Citi Double Cash now allows you to transfer to transfer partners as well.
if you wanted to add to your Citi Thank You point balance, you could also have points from the Citi Rewards Plus card and the Citi Rewards Plus student card go over to the Premier or Prestige card, which then you could transfer over to partners. But the Citi Rewards Plus and Citi Rewards Plus student card don't transfer over to transfer partners. So Citi cards in general don't really get as much attention as American Express and Chase cards because it's kind of like in third place. There aren't really too many good Citi cards compared to Amex and Chase, not just for membership reward points and Chase Ultimate Reward points, but just in general. Citi doesn't have too many co-branded cards. First on the list is Qantas, which is an Australian-based airline, but you could use it for short domestic flights within the US. So for only 16,000 Citi Thank You points transferred over to Qantas at a 1-to-1 ratio, you could use these for a round trip on American airline flights that are 600 miles or less, and this could include connections. So as long as your flight segments add up to 600 miles, then you could book this award at this really low points price. And this even works for international flights. So if you are going from Miami to the Bahamas or New York to Toronto, you could use this trick because those flights are less than 600 miles. So if you wanted to just take a quick flight to a bigger airport, let's say you live in a smaller airport and you needed to reposition, you could take that short, cheap flight to the bigger airport hub by using the Citi Thank You points through Qantas. Next transfer partner is Virgin Atlantic to substitute for Delta flights. So to find really good availability, whether it's domestic or international, with Virgin Atlantic, you could also search for the Delta flights, and it'll be a lot cheaper if you were to book it through Virgin Atlantic. For example, if you were to go from New York to Seattle in first class with Virgin Atlantic, it would cost 45,000 Virgin Atlantic miles, but with Delta, it would cost 112,000 Delta miles one way. And the cash price for this flight would be $1,200. So you're definitely getting a lot more value by using Virgin Atlantic compared to Delta. And to give an example for international flights, if you were to go non-stop first class from Detroit to Amsterdam, with Virgin Atlantic, it would be 50,000 miles, compared to Delta, where it's 105,000 miles, even though you're still flying on a Delta flight. So if you are interested in getting the most value, paying 100,000 Virgin Atlantic miles, which is transferred from Citi Thank You points, is a really good deal for a round trip first class to Europe from the US. And the next transfer partner is Singapore Airlines. So Singapore is a 1-to-1 transfer ratio from Citi Thank You points, and if you want to go to Hawaii, it's 35,000 miles from anywhere in the US, round trip economy to Hawaii. And these flights with Singapore KrisFlyer miles that you're booking, it would be on United flights from most of the US, but if you were going to go from the West Coast, it would most likely be on Alaska Airlines, and those flights would only be 12,000 one way from the West Coast of the US over to Hawaii. And the next transfer partner is Etihad. So you could get some really good deals to Europe and Japan with Etihad. So if you were to get a business class flight, which would be on American Airlines from North America to Europe, it would only be 50,000 Etihad miles each way. But what's even better is that you could get a 50,000 one-way business class flight to Japan as well. So that's definitely the cheapest business class flight to Asia that you could get for only 50,000 Etihad miles. Now, the only caveat here is that if you were to transfer your Citi Thank You points over to Etihad, it's still a 1-to-1 ratio, but it could take up to a week for it to transfer. It's really important to note that once you transfer your Citi Thank You points over to any of these transfer partners, you won't be able to take them back into your Citi Thank You points account. All transfers are final, so you really want to make sure that there's availability first. So if you are liking all these transfer partner deals so far, comment the word WISE down below. And if you want to learn more about credit cards and travel points, subscribe to the channel because I'm producing videos like this every single week. The next transfer partner is Air France flying Blue Miles. So you could get some really cheap deals down to Mexico using flying Blue Miles, and they're going to be on Delta Metal. So for example, you could go from Chicago to Cancun for only 14,500 flying Blue Miles each way in coach. Also, another really good way to use flying Blue Miles is if you're going to go to Israel. So Israel is considered part of the Europe award chart for flying Blue Miles of Air France. Even though Israel isn't really in Europe, you could take advantage of that sweet spot and go all the way to Israel for 22,500 flying Blue Miles from the US. So let me know if you've ever used Citi Thank You points for transfer partners. Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to learn more about American Express and Chase transfer partners, the best ones to use for those, you could click this link right over here, and I'll see you in the next video.